Hey there, I'm Amy Romalis and welcome to UNI TV, your window on university life. Today we're getting topical. So now that the rugby season has started, we're looking at some useful tips on head protection. We're also talking to UNSW's College of Fine Arts as they gear up for their trip to Venice. Also, we're getting technical with lecturer Malcolm Ryan on artificial intelligence, robotics and how Nintendo gaming can actually help the elderly. But considering it's getting cold and with the current swine flu situation, let's look at some tips on how to fight the flu.
With the onset of winter and the latest threat from swine flu, there are proven ways to protect yourself. Simply wearing a face mask can significantly reduce the risk of infection, particularly in pandemics. Professor Rainer McIntyre from the University of New South Wales in Sydney has completed the world's first clinical trial into the efficacy of face masks.
According to the current technology we have available, vaccines will take 6 months. At the shortest time would be 3 months to develop an actual matched pandemic vaccine. So we really need to look at non-pharmaceutical measures to protect the community, and I think families, parents who are plagued by illness all year round, especially when they've got preschoolers or toddlers, can know that they can actually be protected if they use a mask.
Professor Dominic Dwyer, a research partner in the study, underlines the importance of face masks in healthcare.
The frontline people in the hospital, be they, or in general practice for that matter, are going to be the doctors and nurses that see sick people. So I think a very important part of this study is to ensure that the frontline medical people understand the importance of wearing a mask and the importance of continuing to wear a mask when they're exposed to infection.
We did some preliminary work with our colleagues at Westmead and found that there's very, very low acceptance and compliance with mask use in Australian healthcare workers, and I suspect it will be similar in other Western countries.
Though the positive effects of face masks have been proven, convincing a reluctant society is a different matter.
Does rugby headgear prevent concussion? A team led by Dr. Andrew McIntosh from the University of New South Wales has just published the results of a major study into this important question.
We observed a lot of players were wearing headgear, so you go and see a game of rugby on the weekend, like a schoolboy game or a community rugby game, and there was increasingly proportions of players wearing headgear, and we wondered whether there was any evidence that it was effective in preventing head injury and especially concussion.
I'd say that headgear is pretty good. I mean, I haven't had any problems. People who wear headgear tend to get concussion left. You see guys on television who get knocked around. Majority of them wouldn't be wearing headgear.
A lot of guys, swear by it. I guess it's just a preference thing. Some guys prefer to play it. Some guys find it uncomfortable, and I guess until you get your head knocked about, you don't really think about wearing it too much. So.
We undertook what's called a randomised control trial that gives the best evidence for the effectiveness of an intervention. In our case, the intervention was whether headgear prevented concussion or head injury. So we had a control group. We had a group wearing standard headgear. In addition, we had another arm where players were allocated what we called modified headgear. Well, the modified headgear has thicker foam inserts, and the foam in it is denser than this standard headgear. We recruited about 3,500 participants, some of whom played in both seasons. What we found in the study was that padded headgear does not prevent concussion and doesn't prevent head injury. But in terms of more major head injuries, like a laceration that would be bleeding and it might need to be sutured, or a concussion or injuries which stop the person playing the next week, headgear doesn't make any difference to those injuries. It doesn't change the incidence of those injuries. The findings that were true for this, which is a standard headgear, and to a large extent true for this modified headgear. What we did find was that there was a trend with this headgear that there was a reduction of more than 50% in the incidence rate of head injury and concussion leading to someone missing a game. But because of the study running for 2 years and our sample size, that was not a statistically significant finding.
It would surprise me because, like I said, I haven't had as many problems.
A lot of times it sort of depends on how you play the game, like guys that really get in there and play rough. I've seen them get knocked out with headgear as without headgear.
We need to return to the laboratory to do more work looking at the mechanics of head injury and then try and match material that's around, like polyethylene foam that's in this, the right density and thickness, to the dynamics of the impact that are occurring on the sports field. And I think that if we do that, we can then improve the quality of the headgear.
My brother plays first grade for Sydney Uni. He went into a ruck, was on the side in the second row, stomped on his head, and he actually had his ear ripped off and had to have a microsurgery to sew it back on. So, you know, there's a few other reasons why, besides concussion, that it's quite useful to have a headgear. Yeah, I think I'll leave my headgear on for a bit longer.
This June in 2009 we're going to be going to Venice to build our work, which is called Lifespan. It's part of a larger project that Felicity Fenner has curated called Once Removed.
I was also interested though, looking at artists that in a way re-articulated what Australian art is about.
The installation will be made from 195,000 VHS cassettes.
It'll take place inside a chapel, a deconsecrated 13th century chapel just off the Ludoteca.
The idea of the Once Removed has a slightly surreal character, all the works, like this work that Claire and Sean are making with the videotapes stacked inside a church. It's an overt juxtaposition, I suppose, between the work and the setting. They're supposed to play off each other.
The Venice Biennale is very important. Within art and design schools, of course, you hope to be leading with your practice, and you hope to be making sure that students are involved in the very, very most advanced work.
All the reviewers, the critics, the curators from the sort of leading magazines and museums around the world will see their work. So it's really up to the artists to put their best work into the show, because it's a huge chance for them.
I think one of the great things is that COFA for this year, this Venice Biennale, is involved at so many different levels. And then we have two COFA graduates, Claire Healy and Sean Kadiro, in that exhibition. And of course the single artist representing Australia in the pavilions is Sean Gladwell, a COFA graduate.
It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So I've, as a student, kept track of biennales. I've been really interested in how artists from Australia have presented their work in an international context. So it's a bigger space to work with, and it's great to have a pavilion. Some countries don't have pavilions. They're sort of using other countries' spaces or sharing spaces or renting space in the city. So the fact that Australia has a pavilion is a great privilege.
It's just fabulous that we have those very, very lead figures.
I guess really just looking forward to completing the work and having it in a really nice state.
If you imagine the Nobel Prize arrangement for science, the Venice Biennale is the equivalent for the arts. And we're there not as an art institution, but as professionals, as professional artists, curators and educators working at that international level.
Hi, I'm Peter Trout, and with me on the couch is Dr. Malcolm Ryan from UNSW School of Computer Science and Engineering. Malcolm, you're a researcher in artificial intelligence and gaming. Can you tell me first about the work that you're doing in artificial intelligence and how it will apply to industry?
So, yes, I'm doing writing AI algorithms to control large groups of robots, particularly so that they can move around without running into each other. So the classic example is we're controlling large cargo handling robots at the ports, and they have to move cargo from one location to another, but we need to coordinate them so that they don't run into each other, so that each one can go where it wants to go.
So this is applying artificial intelligence on working ports, perhaps on the ports of Sydney or Melbourne. What benefits can you deliver by applying artificial intelligence to large working cranes like these?
So our hope is to make the the work process more efficient so that we can plan for larger groups of robots and have them complete their tasks more quickly, thus making the whole port run more efficiently.
Okay. Now, I understand that the work that you're doing out there on a port also has some very real applications to the work you're doing in computer gaming. Can you tell me how moving massive cargo handling robots around on a port is going to be of use to somebody who wants to play a multiplayer video game?
Well, so we have many of the exact same problems happen on the port that happen in a computer game. We have a large number of agents in the port. They're enormous multi-ton cargo robots. In a computer game, they might be orcs or tanks or whatever. But in each case, we have a large number of agents which need to move around a space without running into each other. The more agents that we can control, the more cargo we can move, or the more people we can have in your game. Okay, so at the moment we have a fairly high level of action and interactivity in high-level computer games. By using this AI, how can you make computer games better? Well, one of the things you'll notice in computer games is that often the worlds are very empty. There just aren't as many people there moving around in the world as there would be in a real situation. What we're doing allows us to control more agents. The limiting factor is the AI. We just can't control that many at the same time. Hopefully, with the progress that I'm making, we'll be able to control a larger number of agents in the world, and so have a world that's feels like it's more inhabited and more like a real place. Now, computer gaming normally strikes me as a fairly technical, high-end sort of activity. I understand these rather untechnical devices actually are quite useful in teaching gaming technology. Can you tell me about those? Yes, we in the first class that I run a game design class, and the first class we run, I get the students to clear all the desks away and dump a bag full of these in the middle of the floor, and it's their job then to make up a game. And it's surprising, it takes them all by surprise. It's a lovely way to start the lecture because they're used to sitting there at desks and listening to someone talk, and here am I saying, take these, make a game. Okay, now a good game is different things to different people. You're also doing some work using the Nintendo Wii, and you're aiming that at not your traditional gaming crowd. You're working with elderly people, people who are undergoing rehabilitation for injuries. Absolutely. What sort of work are you doing with the Nintendo Wii on this? So we're interested in dealing with people, elderly people who may have had a fall or a hip injury and who need to rehabilitate their balance. And they have to do exercises, and typically those exercises are very boring and repetitive. They have to do the same actions over and over again. So what we're interested in doing is incorporating those exercises into a computer game so that they don't think about them as exercises, they think about them as a fun activity, something that they enjoy doing with their friends, but they're actually getting exercise out of the process. Tell me a bit about the sort of games you're designing for this. So we're using the Wii Fit balance board, which allows us to measure how they move from side to side and around. And we're our current prototype is a maze game in which they have to walk around a maze picking up treasures. And we have two players playing side by side and they have to cooperate to pick up as many things in a certain time limit. And we've been playing it up at a local nursing home, and the old people love it. They really enjoy the game. Fantastic. Now, away from the keyboard, you're also a bit of a writer, I understand, and you do a bit of dabbling in creative writing. I've seen you've done some poetry, some essays, but your interest in creative writing isn't solely the writing process. You're also looking at getting some AI into creative writing. Absolutely. We're trying to understand what it is that makes an interesting story. And this is something that narrative theorists have been working on for a long time. But what we're trying to do is take it a step forward and further and ask, knowing what is suspense, what is drama, could we then make a computer which understands these terms and is able to use them to understand stories, maybe to tell stories, ultimately, hopefully, to be able to make more interesting interactive stories, like games that actually tell a story as they go. All right, well, that's really interesting and maybe just a little bit terrifying. Thanks very much, Malcolm. You're welcome. I'm Peter Trout. We'll see you next time on The Couch.
Hey, I'm Amy and you're still watching UNI TV. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Up next, we've our reporter Jeremy at the UNSW Careers Expo, finding out some invaluable do's and don'ts on graduate recruitment. So here's Jeremy.
What are some of the worst mistakes a student has made in their application or interview?
There's the obvious ones. There's eligibility to work. If you're not eligible to work in the country, we can't employ you. Yeah, bit of a problem.
My top tip with the application form is to answer each question, and we score each question. And we found that quite a few people, they don't answer questions at all, or they just write one sentence. We have a character limit of 1,000 characters. It's probably best to use this character limit.
A lot of students just apply for so many other companies and they just send generic cover letters and generic resumes, and they don't realize that it stands out and that they should customize their cover letters and resumes to tailor to the company, because it shows that they've made the effort.
I'm always a big believer in first impressions count, so I think it's always important to be well dressed at an interview, and particularly roll up on time, because rolling up the interview on time is in fact part of the interview process. Have you been able to follow the instructions?
I think the worst thing would be to come ill-prepared, not ready to answer questions when a lot of organisations are quite clear about what they're looking for in students, and they'll happily advertise that on their website or refer to it throughout the process.
And probably, when you don't get a job, it is a small industry, don't write a letter of complaint to the general manager. It's not great.
What kind of advice can you give students on adjusting to their work life? How's it different from uni life?
Yeah, it is really different, and I don't think it's easy for everyone. I guess just making sure, coming out of university, understanding that they don't have any experience and the learning curve is a pretty steep one, making sure that their expectations are positioned correctly. You might have to do some jobs that you may think are a little bit beneath you initially. You may have to do the photocopying, you may have to do some of the things which are just work skills really.
Just take on the knowledge that people give you and really run with it. We're looking for people that have the ability to identify problems and see trends and patterns and information and say, look, I can see a problem in this information. What can we do about this? These are some of my ideas. What do you think, Mr. Manager? And more often than not, the managers, they're looking for those people and they're happy to sort of run with that idea.
I would encourage them to ask a lot of questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask your manager a question. It can just save so much time.
Listen to the people that are around you, the people that are experienced, because they've got that understanding already and they've been in the same place that you've been in as well.
A lot of organisations such as Suncorp have buddy and mentor programs, so we encourage them to take advantage of those. They'll be able to help guide them through that transition.
I tend to find that those students that have done industry placement along the way are much more realistic about what the workplace is like. So, I would really recommend to anyone, get out there while you're studying and get a bit of a taste of what the industry that you're going to go into is like. Yeah.
What the hell's going on? Get loose!
Hey, my name's Guy. I'm in my third year at UNSW and I'm studying mining engineering.
Hi, I'm Robin and I'm studying mechanical engineering and commerce.
Hi, my name's Sean. I'm studying electrical engineering and biomedical engineering.
Hi, I'm Erica. I'm from Tasmania and I'm studying environmental engineering and science. We get to do some fantastic things working with science and the environment in my case and making the world a better place.
People see it as boring when it's really one of the most exciting jobs out there. It's one of the real jobs where you make a difference. It's just a perception thing more than anything, that people kind of think you're an engineer and they go, oh no, he's a nerd, and they kind of try to avoid you and you think you'll try to teach them some new equation or something like that.
I think a lot of people have no idea what we do.
One of the big projects here at UNSW is the Bionic Eye project, which is looking at prosthetic vision. There's also one called the Thinking Systems, which is looking at how the brain and hand interact, which hopefully down the track will lead to some sort of prosthetic hand device.
In reality, we make everything, and I think that's the best bit. You see anything around you and there's a good chance that an engineer was involved in its creation.
I'm involved in a project called BlueSat, and the basic aim is to launch a satellite into space.
This is our old structure, and we're currently rebuilding one as I speak, it looks very similar. This will be launched on a Russian missile. Part of their demilitarization process is to get rid of them, so they get a kickback by launching microsats.
It's just one of the many student-led projects here on campus, such as the Formula SAE car and SunSwift, both of which are involved in races across the country. RoboCup, which involves robotic dogs, which competes all across the world. We've won competitions.
With my girlfriend here, we've had some awkward times at dinner. Just has to sit there and not eat a meal.
At UNSW we've got so many clubs and societies around, it's awesome, and the one I'm involved with is Circus Sock, and so we just practice circus tricks like poi and fire twirling and acrobatics, and yeah, it's heaps of fun.
Hey, how's it going? One of the best parts about uni, it can be fun too. You've got your sports associations, which involves things like soccer, touch footy, tennis, squash, pretty much any sport you want to do, you can do it here at UNSW.
About a third of the students in the colleges on campus are engineering students. It means there's a huge support network for you. It's fantastic being able to live on campus. You can roll out of bed in your pyjamas and go straight to class. It's really nice here at New South as well. We're so close to the beach and really close to the city.
And we always love to be social, and we have a lot of events on. We have a ball and a harbour cruise each year. And we've got a great uni bar where we all like to hang out as well, and it's just a really nice community feel, I find.
I love the possibilities. There is so many places I can go with an engineering degree, and there's so many things I can do with it. I'm not prepared for a single career. I can make whatever I want now. I hope that when I come out of my engineering degree I can just dream of stuff and just build it, and yeah, that's what's awesome about it to me.
Well, that's all from me, Amy, and I hope you've enjoyed our show. But we'll be back again very soon with more Uni TV. So until then, take it easy.